Welcome to CoexSpace Mental Health Summit. I am Vivian Tussier, your host. At CoexSpace, we believe the mental health crisis is not only personal, but deeply collective, a sign that our societies have drifted away from balance, presence, and empathy. These questions invite reflection on how we can restore inner and social equilibrium through awareness, connection, and compassionate action. Alejandra Schatzky, thank you so much for being here again with us at CoexSpace. And this time we're talking about bullying. And I cannot be more thrilled to talk about this subject with you. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivian. For me, it's an honor, and you can count on me for every single time CoexSpace needs me.
Thank you, my dear. I would like to start exploring a little bit about your experience. You're an bullying expert, empowering ally. No one deserved to be mistreated. I'm quoting you. You're an economist, research, and do a lot of teachings and in leaderships. So, how to create cultures where we get along because poverty and inequity are resolved when people collaborate, coexist, and support each other. And this makes company growth, pools thrive, and society progress. And you've been talking about bullying for a long time. You're an expert on human relationships that create positive environments that empower and raise social capital. Your research is focused on developing cost effective solutions to mistreatment and broken relationships in order to transform them into thriving ones where mutual support and shared goals attach in the norm. Your publishing efforts are focused on making these findings applicable to different ages, cultures, and environments. You're mother of four amazing human beings, wife for more than 25 years, and a good friend. So you're a coex-based friend, and we're thrilled to talk about this theme, bullying. I would like to start asking you, what do you think are the deepest emotional and social roots of bullying, both for the victim and the aggressor?
That's a very frequent question. There's a myth that those who bully are being bullied, that those who mistreat have been mistreated, that they are doing it out of a wound. In part, it can be true. There are cases where this is reality, but many times it is not. Many times it's simply that the culture has accepted a bad joke that just has the potential to hurt. And on the other side, there's another myth that is there's people that have like a label on them, please bully me, that they are the typical target. And that's not true either, because you have kids that in one environment they thrive, they're socially integrated, included, they have belonging. You uproot them and take them to another environment, and the story is completely different. Then you uproot them again, and they're thriving again. So if it were something that you carry within, it would happen in every single situation you're in. But that's not necessarily true. It can happen to some kids that they just carry another, a difficulty in social awareness and social skills. And maybe they are the typical target, but not necessarily. So you're asking me, why does it happen? Where does it come from? And it's not from the two typical actors in the problem. It comes from the third actor, which is all of us, the witnesses of the situation, the sometimes passive witnesses or bystanders or active participants of the situation by laughing along, which would be the simplest form of participation. But it's because the culture has accepted these social interactions that are not pro-social. They're anti-social. They don't tend to create a group of belonging, but instead they create differentiation, labeling, and categories, you versus me, and right versus wrong, accepted versus not. So it's more of a society kind of problem.
Thank you for that description. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this theme, and especially when you're living it with your kids, with your students. How does bullying reflect the mental health crisis we are currently living in a global society?
You mentioned I'm an economist. I'm not a psychologist, so I am very cautious to explain that I am not a mental health expert. Nonetheless, my 20 plus years of research have merged me into that field, and I am confident enough to say that a lot of the mental health issues that are going on can be solved once you understand the social dynamics. Because first there's a phrase, it's not mine, it's from Stan Davis. He was an amazing researcher in the bullying field in the US. And his phrase that I carry it inside of me every day is first they bully you and then you bully yourself. So first something from the outside happens. They look at you like this. They give you a message that you're not adequate. Somehow you are inadequate. And then there's a little bully inside your head that just gets really strong and you repeat it over and over and over again. I have seen it in my office. I've seen it in several workshops that once that you explain that inside your head, there's like four people living in there. One of them is like a bully. The other one is the target or the victim. The other one's the bystander that just gives strength to these two voices. But then you have an empowering ally inside of you. And once people are aware of these four voices, they're like, okay, so that's the bully in my head saying this to me, but I don't have to give them the control of my, they're not the captain of the ship. I'm not going to give them the wheel of the driver's seat. I'm just going to keep them there as an advisor. And then maybe I'll listen to the empowering ally in my head and I'll take decisions according to this voice. Similar to CBT kind of techniques where you become aware of your thoughts, but when you put it in actors, in actual characters, it becomes so much easier for the person to actually see it because it's like you're able to put it outside of the brain. And another thing that happens with self-bullying is that once you understand that it's the voice, it's not you. I kind of drift away from the typical don't talk bad to yourself because it's not you talking bad to you. It's the bully in your head or the victim in your head giving you bad advice. So once you understand that it's not you talking bad to you and disempowering you, but it's these voices disempowering you, you regain control. And I'm not going to say that cures mental health issues because there are a lot of issues, psychiatrically speaking, there's tons of things that have nothing to do with this, schizophrenia, whatever. But depression, anxiety, not the profound clinical ones, but these that can be solved this way have a lot of, there's a lot of effectiveness in this kind of teaching.
Thank you for that clarification. It really makes sense because sometimes you're looking for that voice talking to you, and then that's difficult. But finding that, you know, leaders in your head making as a drive for your actions, for your emotions, for your thoughts, it's very a good finding, and that makes sense for how to deal with it, for the aftermath of the bullying situation. And from your experience, how early in life do patterns of aggression or victimization start forming?
The youngest person I have seen where this has worked with only two classes has been an 8-year old. Okay. Or maybe before, but I haven't had the opportunity on the one-on-one. We do work from 4 years old up, but in a group setting. So it's harder to identify when you're working with a group if there's something already ingrained. But it comes also from, I don't want to say that it is taught at home, but there are modelings of this. Even teachers can model this. Oh, I'm not good at this, or I'll never be able to, or, all these phrases that the kids just, they hear them. I've had kids already 10, 11-year-olds that are using terminology that these big words, they're like, yeah, because I suffer from blah, blah, blah. And you're like, where'd you get that term from? Well, it's TikTok. They're explaining the phobia to, I don't know, throwing up phobia. I can't remember the word, but a 12-year-old literally yesterday in my office was like, I have emetophobia. I think it was that word. I'm not sure. And I was like, where'd you get the term from? And she was like, oh, I saw it on social media. So now are you believing what they're being told? So first they bully you, not necessarily somebody did something to you, but maybe you just captured a message somewhere and you know, it goes in here and it repeats, and then you believe that voice. So, you know, we have to be aware. We have to be aware that it's not you. It's something outside that created that voice inside your head. And, you know, the people that start saying, I can't believe I do this to myself. I don't know why I bring myself down all the time. Okay, it's not you. It's that voice. And somehow it's so loud that when you're driving, they just make you drive that way, regain control of the wheel, and tell that voice, maybe I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I am a mistake. I just made a mistake. The little language changes make a huge change in reality.
And that's an amazing perspective or on how we can change those voices. But can you tell us an example of how to work with those voices to lower them, their volume or silence them?
Okay, silent them is hard. And there's people that are like, how can I get them out of my ship? You know, because I tell them, okay, imagine you are the captain of the ship and you have these four advisors that are giving you, you know, sometimes they're trying to guide you. They're not bad. They're just there for a mission. So the first one, the bully inside your head, is the mission of them is to destroy somebody. Okay. So they think that your ship will be better taken to port if they destroy the outside. So they start saying everything is, you know, your parents' fault, your school's fault, society's fault, financial's fault. If only the law would help me or whatever. It's always somebody's fault. So we need to get rid of that. And if you're able to tell them, okay, no, I'm not going to be a victim of my circumstances, then they will attack you. So it's your fault. You are inadequate. You're a human mistake. You are an embarrassment to society. So we have to eliminate you in order for this to work. So that voice, once you understand that it's only a voice, you need to understand how it works in different settings, because maybe in your work it doesn't come up, but maybe with your parents it does. Or maybe with your parents it doesn't, but it comes out with your kids because you have a teenage kid and you're asking yourself, you know, or not asking yourself, the voice is telling you you're a bad mom. Then you have to recognize the victim in your head. So the victim or the target, because when it's not in your head, when it's outside, it's just the target of aggression. But inside your head, it sounds more like the victim. So the victim's advice is don't do anything. Don't waste your energy. That's the best way to go through life. Just wait for somebody to rescue. Wait for somebody to solve the situation. So that voice will say, we can't, we are not able to, we alone, we will never be capable. So it's that victim telling you, don't do anything. Just wait for somebody to rescue you. Sounds like a good advice if you need to, you know, conserve your energy, but not very empowering. Then there's a very hard voice to identify. I call it the bad friend, which is the bystander. It's that friend that if you go out for lunch, you're like, oh my gosh, I look so ugly. I'm so old and I gained weight and I don't know how to parent my kids and blah, blah, blah. And my financials are bad. And they'll tell you, yeah, you've let yourself go. I think you should check to see what's going on. And you're like, oh my, thank you, no, thank you. You're like my worst enemy. They just add to those voices. But then you have the empowering ally, and we need to feed the empowering ally. So you asked me, how do I manage these voices? Instead of trying to shut these up, we're going to strengthen your empowering ally. So we need to find those phrases that will actually empower you. For example, the one I just told you, you might have made a mistake, but you are not a mistake. You might have not been able to solve this yet. Those are like keywords, but it doesn't mean you won't be able to if you put an effort. You might have done this in the past, which was wrong, but you still don't deserve to be mistreated. For example, a person that's receiving a silent treatment from somebody in their family because they made mistakes in the past. So the bully inside your head is going to say, yeah, you deserve it because you did this and this in the past. But the empowering ally can tell you, yes, you made that mistake, but that doesn't mean you deserve to be mistreated. You deserve to have an explanation of what you did. You deserve to have an opportunity to correct what you did, but you don't deserve to be, mistreated. Nobody deserves to be mistreated no matter what. So the more we learn these phrases, the more this empowering ally, your inner empowering ally, will become stronger, and it will help you kind of have an internal conversation. And then finally, you're going to say, okay, who do I listen to? Let me choose who I listen to. Which voice is most convenient? I have to give you a warning. If you give this speech to somebody and they're like, yeah, but I won't be able to, or whatever, you got to ask them, what benefit are you obtaining from listening to those voices in your head that are disempowering? Because there's people that are obtaining huge benefits from continuing to stay in that position.
Yeah, 100%. Like the secondary gains from those patterns or behaviors. So, but let me ask you a question. How do we work with them? For example, if I have a kid or a student or somebody that I know, how can we do this practice? How do you share this knowledge with others? How do you make them listen to those voices and be aware of those voices? And what are the differences between a child that is, I don't know, underneath a situation like that, or an adolescent or an adult? What are the differences?
First, the first correction we need to do is, as adults, is stop trying to find why this happens to that person. I don't want to say 100%, but 100% of the time, everybody comes to me with an explanation. So the conversation goes like this. Well, my kid is having trouble socially because, well, they have ADHD, or, well, they're a little overweight, or, well, they were born with cerebral palsy, or, well, they are the new girl, or fill in the blank. Okay. So that's how this is 100% of the time. So once they're done with their story, I'm like, okay, no, your kid is having a social situation because other kids do not know how to relate to them, because the adults around him or her are not knowing how to help them belong in this situation, or because the adults or the institution or whomever around them is not setting limits to mistreatment. Period. Don't give me all the explanations that you're trying to find in your head. We need to learn that there's situations that we don't control. The constant need to seek for the explanation is nothing more than you trying to control what's going on. Because if I can figure it out, then I can fix it. But the reality is that the reason why this is happening is because others do not know how to relate to them. Okay? Or others were not taught how to treat people well. Others were taught that a joke, a humiliating comment is a funny thing. So they're just repeating what they were taught. And they don't know that that has the potential to hurt. So the first corrective measurement that we're going to take is telling all adults to stop it with the explanation of why, their hypotheses. Let them go. The only answer is this one that I'm giving. That already repairs the way that the adult is looking at the child, whether it's a child or a teenager. And there's a reality. Once you change the way you view the potential in a person, they start to respond in a very different way. If you see them as a poor victim that will never get out of this because they are, blonde, green-eyed woman, 47-year-old, if somebody were talking about me, then there's no way I can empower myself, and you won't be able to empower me. You're going to constantly try to rescue me or excuse things for me. So if the adult is able to see the kid that way, we are much further ahead on the road. So that's part one. Part two of your question was, what's the differences in ages? The differences in ages is the younger they are aware of these voices in their head, the quicker they're able to understand that it's just a dynamic. I have an exercise, and here on Zoom, it's harder to show, but it's an exercise involving three people, three volunteers. I've done it from little kids to all the way to adults. And it's kind of like a social experiment where you stand one person in front of the other. This person holds a weapon, a hypothetical weapon, okay? It's words that are going to hurt the person. So you tell them age appropriately what it is that's going to happen to this person right here. So they're going to somehow hurt this person, but not in a terrible way. Just, a joke or whatever. And everybody's going to laugh, okay? Everybody's going to find it funny except for this person. So we put them one in front of the other. And you ask them, look, do you want to shoot? Do you want to hurt? And of course, we position them in a powerful, way. And they're like, well, it depends. If they're my friend, no. If they aren't, yes. That's a typical teenager answer. Adults will go like, no way. And you're like, yeah, right. Now think through. And then when they're finally into character, they're like, yeah, I would, because it is funny. Little kids will go like, yeah, it's fun. Sometimes you'll find the one that will say, no way, nothing. There's nothing I would do to another person because no one deserves to be mistreated. Those are the people that are already educated towards coexistence. But 80% of the time they'll say, sure, I'll do it. And then you go in this person and you're like, what do you want to do? I want to run away. I want to negotiate. Why are you doing this to me if I never did anything to you? When you tell someone, why are you doing this to me if I never did anything to you? You are somehow justifying mistreatment. Because if I would have done something to you, then I can understand why you're mistreating me. See how it goes? So once you explain, and this is all on theater, you can see it live, and people are like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing it. And very rarely, this person will go to the third person. I told you was three. The third person is standing behind. Very rarely they will ask for help. Very rarely. So once it's obvious that this won't stop, because it's just a confrontation that won't stop, I invite the third person in and I'm like, okay, you're watching this. What do you want to do? Most of the time, they'll walk towards the aggressor, the bully, and they'll start negotiating. Oh, this person didn't do anything to you. You should step on their shoes. What would happen if it were you? It takes them nowhere. And then out of nowhere, I bring a shield and I give it to the third person. And when the third person has a shield, and I tell them, everybody behind your shield is going to be protected, okay? Automatically, instead of walking to the aggressor, they walk to this person. And they stand in front of this person. And they start talking to this person. They become an empowering ally to the one that needs help. And this person, all of a sudden, starts to feel empowered because they have somebody next to them. You know what happens to this one? They get bored. So they put down the weapon, whatever it is that I gave them, words or whatever. They put it down and they're like, okay, so what's going on now? And these people are like, okay, do you want to play with us? You want to come to us? As long as you treat us well, you're welcome. When kids see that dynamic, they are able to see it here. And the younger you show them this dynamic and you show them that these voices are going to be here, you tell them, okay, now let's build the shield. So what is the shield? The shield is, number one, I did not create the other person's behavior. I do not control if my parents scream at me. I do not control if my peers make fun of me. I do not control when the teacher has an outburst and calls me stupid. Not in my hands. It's the other person not knowing how to manage their emotions. That's repairment number one. Number two, once you internalize that and you understand, okay, this is out of my control, I can choose who to listen to. So we start identifying, maybe you have an aunt that helps you out. Maybe you have a teacher that helps you out. Maybe you have peer, a classmate that treats you well and tells you, I don't know how to help you just yet, but that's not okay. Number 3, we're going to find new people. Stop it with trying to be friends with the 3 kids that are playing this emotional game of today we're your friend, tomorrow we're not. Stop it. Let's find new people. There's 7 billion people on earth. Somebody will be your friend. And then you have to teach the kid how to find new people, because most adults don't know how to meet new people. So how can a kid learn? So we teach them.
Wow, that's very interesting because I've seen it. I have 4 kids as well, and I've seen those dynamics. It's very common nowadays, and those tools are very powerful tools. So thank you for that. And I would like to ask you, in your view, what are the invisible wounds society often overlooks? What would be the society or cultural wounds that we have nowadays, the underneath roots causing bullying?
The first one is there's nothing I can do about it. One of the most disempowering phrases there are is there's nothing I can do about it. Actually, as I said before, I'm not a psychologist, but there's a whole research around the word self-efficacy instead of self-esteem. Self-esteem is how I view myself. Do I love myself? Do I have esteem for myself? Self-efficacy is how do I view how effective I am? If what I do actually changes or not the course of events. So disempowerment is when you are when there's zero self-efficacy. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no power within me. So what has happened is that we have been told for decades, if it's not your problem, don't get involved. Look the other way. There's nothing you can do about this. And people now believe that there's nothing they can do about it. So they don't know what they can do. And one of the most effective things you can do to help another human being in a bullying situation or in any situation is to just sit there and listen. Don't answer, don't solve, don't rescue. Because the other cultural message we have received is if you don't solve it, there's nothing you can do. If you can't fix it, don't even try. And what we have forgotten is that most of the time, the fixing, the solving comes from listening to the person that needs to be listened, because then they will be empowered enough to set limits, to change their reality, to find somebody new. But if we don't even listen, because if I listen and I think I can't do anything about it, then I will suffer. And I don't want to suffer. So I prefer not to know. I prefer not to listen. When we bring up the data in the school settings, mostly in the school settings, and we show the Stan Davis's research is very interesting. It's published in the Youth Voice Project. He surveyed around 13,000 kids throughout the years, and he found what variables can be correlated to trauma and trauma in the long run. It's not what happened to you, because 2 kids can have the same situation happen to them. So why does one of them thrive and have resilience, come out with because they have resilience, they're able to thrive. And why does another kid doesn't have resilience and just carries this trauma over and over and just, generates metamorphosis, and now it's a bad marriage, and then it's a bad job or whatever. So what he found is that it's not about what happens to you, it's about how much support you have once that happens to you. And the number one factor that diminishes the levels of trauma is having at least one adult that you can trust and tell them your issue in the school setting. So teachers have tremendous power to transform a bad situation into an anecdote and not a traumatic event that you carry your whole life. Just a story of something that happened to you. It's an anecdote. And that comes when you listen. But teachers feel that they need to fix it. So I don't want to know. When we bring out that data, they're like, wow, so that's in my hands? I can do that? And we're like, yeah, you can do that. Just listen. You don't have to be a therapist. You can, if it's a terrible situation that you have to report, abuse or whatever, sure, report. That's what the counselor is there for, the director, the law. But sometimes it's just about this kid didn't invite me to their party and they just need to get it out of their chest.
That's a powerful statement because it's true. Sometimes we prefer not to listen if we cannot, we feel disempowered to do the changes or have the solutions. But let me ask you something. It's they need to be listened to in the complex they were bullied, or they can find that, ear at home or with peers or
The aunt. I always say the aunt, the
dance.
uncle.
Yeah.
Of course. Not anybody that can connect with you and tell you, what you're telling me, you don't deserve it. Because the kids will tell you, no, that this happened to me because last year I did this and this and this. And the answer, I ask adults to learn it like if it were um a script.
A
Learn the
statement.
script.
Yeah.
The script, you just answer the same thing over and over again. Maybe you did that last year, but that doesn't mean you deserve to be mistreated. No one deserves to be mistreated. No, but I know that I did it. Okay, then maybe last year you deserved somebody to explain to you how to behave better. That's called setting a limit, okay, or a reframing, but not a mistreatment. Not revenge is not an acceptable response to whatever you did. It's not, because no one deserves to be mistreated. There's a difference between setting a limit and revenge or mistreatment or exclusion, indifference, whatever it is. So if you are that adult, whether you're listening to a kid or to a friend, okay, because this is the same script for adults, correct that bully inside their heads by giving strength to the empowering ally and telling them, even if that were true, you still deserve a chance at life. You still deserve people to treat you well.
100%. And that brings to my mind, yesterday we were doing another interview and he was talking about responsibility. At the end, we have that ability to respond. And how do we respond to being the bullied, being the ones who bully, or the one outside, like the third person listening to it? How, and those answers are the ability to respond, in a different way. And statement number one, you cannot be mistreated. You do
You
not
don't deserve it.
deserve. Exactly. You do not deserve it. And
Actually, sorry to interrupt you. One of the best ways to set a limit in a situation is to tell the other person, I'm interested in what you're saying. Just not that way, because I don't deserve to be mistreated.
yeah,
Your tone of voice right now, the gestures you're using, the words you're using, I am feeling mistreated. I'm interested in your message, not like this.
it's completely true. I'm a psychotherapist, and it's, if you feel inside that hole, it's easier to get that, you know, punishment for that guilt. If you don't feel that guilt, it's easier to defend yourself or to, um, put those boundaries to the others around you. And what kind of educational or emotional tools should we teach in school, in general? And what should schools be implementing to prevent bullying effectively? Yeah.
Yeah, the programs that I always suggest begin first with teaching relational skills. Before the person, it's the relationship. So we teach the kids how to relate to each other. We even begin with the teachers, because teachers tell the kids, "Oh, you guys have to get along. You guys have to be able to, just pass the page, get over it." And I ask the teachers, "Are you able to get along?" So one of the challenges, number first, day one of whatever we're doing, we challenge them to sit down for coffee with somebody that they despise in the in the teaching body, the a member of your organization. It can be somebody from administration. It doesn't have to be a teacher, but whomever you are, when you see them, you're like irritated. Okay, invite that person for coffee, and you're gonna do the following. And we give them instructions. Okay, literally instructions. You're gonna ask them, if I had a problem that I needed to fix, what problem should I have that I would need to go to you? It can be a simple problem. For example, I need to cook a chocolate cake. Are you good at baking chocolate cake? If yes, then I want to know that, because then I'll go to you. I need to do an Excel sheet with, my budget. Are you good at that? Well, so tell me one thing you are good at that if I had that problem, I would have to go to you. So that's one of the topics of conversation. And we give them conversation starters. Okay, now give me 3 positive, things that you do in your life. Now give me 1 or 2 successes that you have had this week. And obviously they have to ask back. Okay, so now that we're done with this conversation, how do you feel about this person? Maybe they're not your cup of tea. I'm not asking you to be best friends, but I am asking you to coexist. Coexist means we're going to collaborate towards common goals. We need to find a common goal. The first common goal is that we need to coexist. It's a goal. We need to all fit in at the same time in the same place. I don't have to explain this to coex space, because that's all what you guys talk about. So that's our first goal. Okay, now our second goal. If it's a school setting, a company setting, it's going to be business goals. But if it's a school setting, okay, what are our common goals? Have a good name for our school. Okay. If we are fighting each other or not, or excluding each other or being indifferent, are we going to help towards that goal? Okay, no. So how can we collaborate? I don't need you to be best friends. So once the adults learn this, okay, now let's teach it to the kids. We have tons of different tools, okay? Videos and stories and whatever, children's books. But most of them have much more to do with relating to each other, because it's easier to be healthier yourself when you are in a place of belonging, when other people are there for you. You can have a bad day, you can have a bad week, but you know that somebody, if you didn't go to school, they're going to give you a call and say, where are you? How are you feeling? You're missed. Come back. And when a person feels that somebody cares, it's much easier to then fix all the emotional issues that we can bring. So the first thing we teach, and that if I were in charge of the school curriculum, the first thing is more about relational skills than about you with yourself.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's true. We need to start us, and then we can, give it to others. And but what happens, Alejandra, when you were bullied? Or what message would should we give to children or adults who carry the pain of having been bullied or being mistreated in a marriage, in schools, in the workplace?
First, do they really believe that they don't deserve it? That's the first thing we're going to have to work with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there I use a phrase from Anne Frank, which you guys know, which is, in spite of everything, I still believe people are good at heart. So we begin to explain, this is a kind of like a teaching more than a therapeutic process. It's a teaching process. Okay. If she was able to say that in spite of everything, she still believes people are good at heart after the Holocaust and, diary and whatever, who am I to say you're a bad person? I'm pretty sure you're a good person. Can we agree at least that you are a good person? Okay. So if you are a good person, and in spite of everything, I still believe you're good at heart. Let's see, what does it mean in spite of everything? Okay. So did you have bad behaviors? So we begin to differentiate who you are from what you do. Okay. So we have established you are a good human being. Now let's see what you do. Now let's see if what you did deserved the level of mistreatment you received. Because a bad person, if you are a bad person, maybe there's people that are going to say you deserve mistreatment. And I don't even agree with that. If you are a bad person, maybe you deserve prison. Okay? Jail. But if you're in jail, do you deserve to be tortured every day? No. So there's a difference between setting a limit, a boundary, a stop, and a mistreatment. So once you understand that what you are is maybe not that easy to change, but you are a good person. But what you do is something that every single morning you can decide to do something new, to try out something new. And that helps a lot to repair the bully voice that says, you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. So the first way to untangle this is once the person understands, okay, I do. Okay, what I do. Let's take a look at what I do and what I did. What I did it deserve? No, I didn't deserve to be mistreated. Okay, I didn't deserve it. But anyway, I was mistreated. So now let's see what we're going to do with this. Because reality is that this happened. Reality is not that you deserved it. Reality is that it happened. Okay? That's the fact is that it happened. Whatever it happened, okay? Abuse, it happened. Reality is not that you provoked it. That's the first big step towards healing, which is very hard because the bully inside their heads has been screaming for years, you deserve it. Okay. So this
Wow.
exercise
Yeah.
that I told you about, the weapon and whatever, I actually make them do it physically. And so they see it with their eyes and they're like, okay, it was never about somebody rescuing me. It was never about the person leaving the weapon behind. It was about how society responded. Okay. There's I can't remember who it was that explains that for example, when a kid is abused, it's a traumatic moment. Evidently, it's a traumatic moment. But if the kid can't tell their parents about it or their mom or their aunt, if they keep it in silence, the trauma did not begin the day of the traumatic episode. The trauma began before because you didn't have anybody to talk to. Nobody would listen to you. You couldn't connect. So if you would have had somebody to talk to, then after that traumatic episode, you would have been able to report it and people would have been able to help you and it wouldn't have continued and it would, and you could have gone in therapy and whatever to heal. But if you remained silent, the trauma began before. The disconnect began much, much before. So it's years of shut up, you deserve it, you deserve it, you deserve it. Once you are able to explain that dynamic, then we can introduce the concept of radical acceptance. Okay? The fact is you were abused. The fact is you were bullied for 3 years. Okay? Whatever it is, the fact. Now let's stop fighting what is not in your hands. The past is not in your hands to change. Lily Tomlin said, forgiving is not about justification or about forgetting. Okay, forgiving is letting go of the expectation of a better past. We can't expect a better past. That is what it is. We need to accept it and say it was bad. You didn't deserve it. Now let's create a new future. It's not simple. 20 minutes sounds simple. Many people will listen to the recording and they're going to go like, oh no, she puts it in very simple terms. Oh, evidently, this is not a 20-minute thing. It's several moments until you're able to get to that point. But the framework is going to be always the same.
The main ideas: you do not deserve it. Others do not deserve it. And we need to be open to listen to it without having to have the tools to fix it. Just be that open ear, and have that listening effect on the trauma of being bullied. Alejandra, it's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, for explaining these points. Very important right now. We're hearing a lot about bullying, and we do not understand it in this way. So thank you for that. For me, it's very powerful, and I will do it. I will start doing it and talk about it. How can we find you? How can we find these tools? Where can we do the research to know more about it and put it in practice?
Okay, well, we have a very extent digital presence, Generación EPI. It's the same as generation in English, but with a C because it's in Spanish. And EPI means empowering, positive, innovative. So everywhere, Instagram, LinkedIn, webpage, our YouTube channel, it's full of different kinds of videos catering to different audiences. And then we also have courses where it's the cheapest way that we can provide the knowledge. And we have one that's a certification for teachers without bullying. We're currently checking to, we're currently evaluating if we're going to translate it to Portuguese, actually, because there's interest in Brazil, well, from all our research. So yay, we're very happy about that.
Amazing.
There's, thank you. There's a small, quick course for parents for that need to, help their kids along the way. Every single parent that calls us, the first thing we tell them is, regardless if you're going to work on a one-on-one with one of our coaches or not, that's the course we need you to do, because we need the parent to stop thinking that it's their kid, or that somehow they couldn't protect their kid. They need to also heal. Parents are the forgotten piece, because the kids receive all the therapy, but then the parent carries this guilt that they didn't see it coming, or they couldn't fix it for their kid. And if we don't fix that part with the parents, if we don't work with the parents, then the kids become they carry the responsibility of, I made my parents feel this bad way. And no, no, the parent has to heal themselves. The kid has to heal themselves. The kid can't be all great and happy and then see their parent all anxious and feel that they have to go and parent the parent. It's no. So teachers, certification, parents, courses. We have courses for leaders and companies, for mostly the human resources and the leadership positions. Yeah. And then we also have a workshop that we open up every 3 or 4 months about emotional intelligence, but it's emotional intelligence that empowers. It's the specific tools that we teach in Generación EPI. And then, of course, guides and ebooks and whatnot. A lot of things around what we do.
Great, great, amazing work. Thank you so much, Alejandra Schatzky. Thank you for this conversation, and we look forward for more information about this and other themes.
I
Thank you.
will be glad to collaborate every single time that I'm needed. Thank you so much.